Is my child gifted? Should I have my child tested for the gifted program? We get that question very often. And the concept of giftedness is a very far from settled concept. You could be identified in one school district or system, move 30 miles to the east, and then your child suddenly doesn't qualify. What does this tell you? It tells you that giftedness is a very amorphous, very kind of open-ended definition for a certain set of attributes that a child or adult may have. So here at NuMinds, we believe the important thing is not the label. Let me answer with a short, quick answer to that question is, if you have an intuition or an inclination as a parent that your child might be gifted, have them tested. Worst case scenario, you've got more data. Whatever testing that school or system has used, or if you go to a private psychologist, you got more data on your child that may be useful, and you can focus on the positive aspect of that. But back to the point at hand is, it's not about the label, it's about using the information you have about your child to make the best choices for them. And so there's a useful concept that we like to use, and it's a way of comparing and contrasting three profiles. One is a high achiever versus a gifted child versus a creative learner. Now this concept has been around for a while, kind of the bright child versus the gifted child. We really like the work of Bertie Kingor. She is a Texas-based giftedness expert, and she proposes a third category called the creative learner. And we find it's very helpful to kind of look at all three side by side. They're not mutually exclusive. In other words, you can be a gifted learner and a high achiever. You could be a creative learner and a high achiever, although that combination is more rare. But the point here is not to box your child in or give you another label or send you another bumper sticker claiming your child is one of those three. The point here is to look at the different traits in the categories and say, okay, based on this, if my child's school has a gifted program designed for the gifted learner, but it looks like my child may be a high achiever, is it really worth it for them to get identified into the program? Is it going to serve them? If my child is an extreme creative learner, maybe even struggling in school, is a gifted program designed for the gifted learner going to benefit them? I don't know. I don't have a straight answer, but what we want to present you, parents and teachers, is some more information. So we have a link to a PDF of Bertie Kingor's research. There's some great information at the front, but what we really like as a quick reference is there is a 3-column table that lists some of the attributes of all three types of learners. I'm just going to give you a quick sample. So for example, a high achieving child has to put in some work. There's a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears that go into it in order for them to achieve, and they do tend to achieve, hence their name. They get good grades, they are extrinsically motivated, they like to please the teachers and adults around them, and they have figured out the system, they know how to get it done. Whereas a gifted learner just seems to kind of know without the effort, okay? A lot of gifted learners can coast through elementary and even secondary school with not much sweat. And sometimes they have a wake-up call somewhere along the way, but in general, if you're looking at a young gifted learner, they kind of just seem to know or intuit the information. And where does a creative learner fit in all that? Well, they're not really extrinsically motivated at all, and they are more interested in playing with ideas and concepts than this concept of achievement. Some other things, the concept of mastery, right? So a high achiever in general needs about 6 to 8 repetitions of a new skill to master it. A gifted learner needs 1 to 3 repetitions, but there is normally, if it's a true gifted learner, there is some motivation to do the mastery, but it just happens a lot faster. That's why the drill and kill scenario can be so devastating for the gifted learner. Whereas the creative learner, why am I doing this? Questions the need for mastery in the first place, okay? Let me give you one more example. And this is important because this can help you make decisions as a parent. So a high achieving student tends to enjoy the company of grade level or same age, same grade peers, right? They're generally happy at school because they're kind of surrounded by similar minds, similar peers. Achievement is accessible, everything's fine, whereas the gifted learner thrives and craves idea mates. That's how Bertie Kingor puts it. We like that term. So intellectual peers, in other words, that may or may not be found in their own grade level. So if there are not opportunities for acceleration at your child's school, then your gifted learner may need outside of school opportunities to interact with intellectual peers. Okay. What about the creative learner? Often works alone. Okay. They have very divergent thought patterns that may or may not mesh with peers of any type. Okay, sometimes they can find connections, but they may be happy working alone oftentimes. So these are just some examples. We really recommend you to follow the link, check out this article by Bertie King Gord, look at the table, and what it's going to do is it's going to help you kind of map out your child. Like in general, like I said, you're gonna have traits across all three columns, right? But if you get out a highlighter, go through the table and start highlighting, like, oh, that's my child, and just see where is the most highlight. And if it seems to be concentrated on one of those profiles, then you have some information as a parent about your child's needs. Okay? And if you have questions about approaches for your child based on where they fell, reach out to NuMinds Enrichment. We love to talk about these things. All right? We will see you with the next knowledge drop. Remember to let us know in the comments or any way you can topics that you want to hear about. That's why we're discussing this one today, is because parents reached out and said, hey, tell us about high achieving versus gifted. So that's what we've done. All right.